Hi, I'm Pegleg Meg. Today I'm going to be making 5-core aliens using a cotter pin in my drill to loop the cores through it. What I'm going to show you is how I set it up. This cotter pin has a groove in the middle where the two halves meet. I'm going to put that groove against one of the teeth, against the point of one of the teeth in my drill chuck. So you have this little point groove, and then on the other side you've got the gap of the other two teeth. This is the side I'm going to put the cores through because that's going to make them a little bit closer to the center of the chuck. So I've got, this is 5 strands of 30 gauge. I already measured and cut. I got 8 inches here. That's enough to get 2 coils worth. I'm going to put it in the chuck. This is going to be hard to show. Put it in, coming from the direction where the two teeth have a gap between them. Put it through. Hold in the middle, trying to keep it flat. Go up, down, and then back towards the cotter pin. Now, it doesn't even matter right now if they're perfectly flat next to the cotter pin. That's going to come after I pull and tighten them on the swivel. So now I got to move stuff over to my swivel. Pull the drill over. Start at the cotter pin. Press the cores flat. Pinch and move my fingers down toward the swivel end. And do the same thing I did in the cotter pin. This time, I want to make sure before I do the folding, I'm going to pull it pretty tight. I got a lot of tension on it right now, holding the swivel. I'm going to go just like the other way, down, up, and then back. Sorry for the blurriness. And again, they're not flat at either end. Take this off. But right in the middle, just pinch, pull towards one of the ends. I do it towards the chuck end because that's where I start wrapping at when I make an alien. I got like some 0.4 ribbon. You could use 0.3, it doesn't really matter. And make a ribbon slider. Go around a couple of times. Since this is 30 gauge, it likes to collapse real easily. So after I go around a couple of times, I'll go ahead and pinch it. Because this whole ribbon slider is pointless if it's not keeping everything flat. Ideally, when you get started making the alien, you may not even need this because of the tension you used when you were attaching the swivel end. Should make them all stay nice and flat, along with the alien wrap making them stay flat. So I have a little ribbon slider. I've already got a 26 gauge D-core. I'm using 26 gauge because this is 5x30. I don't know if you know the math for aliens, but it's, 3x30, use a 30 gauge D-core. Every extra core after that, you go down 2 gauges. So it's like 30, 28, 26. Anyway, I got some stainless steel 26 gauge D-core. This is how I keep up with my D-cores so I don't lose them or destroy them, because I used to have a tendency to leave them on my table, then they would get squished. I like to cut the D-core in half and do 1 coil at a time, just because I don't have to worry about the D-core getting snagged on anything on my floor. I'm gonna get it started going around where I looped the cores to the chuck. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous because I've never made just a video before. So I got it started. I'm going to move this all the way down and then forward just a little bit. This is where I want to start aliening. I want it to stay flat at the beginning. Once it gets going flat, it should stay flat the rest of the way without me having to bump this every couple centimeters. One important thing about doing it this way, or any way you do it with more than 3 cores, especially if you have higher gauges like 30 gauge, is you need to stretch the D-core to the max. Not to the point that it's not going to make an alien anymore, but to the point that you can let it go through your fingers without putting any tension on it, and it'll make an alien rat. So I'm going to stretch it pretty far. I'm going to look at it. And this is something that kind of takes practice, but if you aren't comfortable with it, stretch it a little bit at a time and then test it. And if you have to put any kind of tension on it, stretch it a little bit more, but be careful, because the more that your alien D-core is already stretched out, the less of more stretching it needs, if that makes sense. The teeniest, tiniest stretch when it's already stretched out can overstretch it. So I actually got a part where the wires are crossed. I'm going to skip it. Remember, this is just getting it started. So, and doesn't feel like I'm having to use any tension. Make sure the tension between your drill and your swivels is nice and tight also. Just go slow for the first little bit. Make sure that you're not having to hold the wire with tension, the D-core I mean. I hope you can see that. Anyway, this is good. I'm going to scoot the slider down just a little bit because I'm still not real sure yet if this is going to work without collapsing the cores, and it looks like it is. If you can see, the cores are still nice and flat. So I'm going to be brave for the sake of this video and scoot my ribbon slider. I'm going to scoot it down towards the middle of my stick just because that's going to mark the length of one coil, because like I said, I cut my D-core in half basically, so I have enough to do one coil at a time. Another thing I gotta warn you about is the faster you go when you're spinning a drill, no matter what, it's gonna add more tension. It's just the speed of pulling it's going to make it have more tension on the D-core. So just be careful with your speed. Still flat. They're starting to kind of do this like W, but that's okay. They're not collapsing, they're just sort of meeting inside each other's grooves. What I'll do after I finish making this is roll a tube mod over it, and that'll flatten it out. Some people use pasta rollers. I don't have one of those, but it'd do the same thing. And they probably would not have done that little W thing if I hadn't gone quite so fast. I'm really more comfortable going just a little bit slower with aliens. So. So I got one coil here. I'm going to snip it. What I like to do is for the second coil, I actually like to start at the swivel end and then reverse the drill. Make sure you reverse the drill. So get the ribbon slider down there. I found it pretty easy to, with that loop you made with the cores, stick the D-core through that little loop. It just makes it a nice little place to hold the wire when you get it started. And then wind it till it gets to where it's claptoned, and then stretch it again. And remember, if you're not comfortable stretching a D-core all the way, do a little bit at a time and test it. I mean, it's kind of inevitable. I've overstretched a lot of D-cores, but hopefully my experience can help you not do that. Do a little bit at a time, and the more stretched it is, keep in mind the less extra stretching will make it stretch a lot more than you'd expect. Also, something I do with my D-core is I put it on the back of a chair to keep it from touching the floor so much. See, this is not stretched enough. I can make an alien with it, but it might actually work. I'm going to go and try it. I am having to put a little bit of tension on it now. So what I could either do at this point is stretch it some more, or just keep my slider a little bit closer in front of it. I might actually not need the slider. I'm just not real. I want to go and scoot it down and see what happens. Again, for the sake of this video. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like how it's twisting so much there. So far, so good. Be careful if you get going fast to not go over your ribbon slider, obviously. I've done that before and it was really aggravating. Scoot this over some. I actually did not understretch it. I'm not holding any tension on it at all now. I also notice the farther away you hold the D-core, the more leeway you'll get with how much tension you have to hold on it, because the length of the D-core will allow it to stretch more or less. It'll kind of manage itself a little bit if you hold it farther away. Anyway, I got my two coils. I'm going to take this thing off. Get this out of my drill. Another thing I like about the cotter pin, there's so you know there's bobby pins and stuff, or hairpins, what most people call them, I guess. They have this black coating on them though, and it'll get all over your wire and in the drill and all over your table. I don't like that. Cotter pins don't have any paint on them or anything. Get out of there. And because it's got this groove in the middle, I can stick my fingernail in it and just slide my stick out. I'm going to clip it and show you what I got. Clip it right in the middle to get rid of that ribbon slider. So, I got a good alien. I got two good aliens. See if I can show you. They're clean, they're flat. What I'm going to do before I coil them, just for good measure, and this is just kind of extra. I don't always do this, but again, for the sake of this video, if you have trouble getting your aliens flat and they have lots of pores, got my stick here. And I've got plastic tape over the table. Take this stainless steel tube mod, roll it over it. This is going to be hard to do while holding a phone. Then flip it over, because when you roll it, it'll make it have this bow in it. Do it on both sides though. I'm going to have to put the phone down, because like I said, it'll get this bow. So I got to flip it over, and I usually have to hold it. And I'm not putting a whole lot of pressure on it. Don't be afraid to put lots of pressure on it though. That was a 36 gauge D-core, so it's pretty tough. And now you can see, or can you? They're flat. It's a good alien. I got two good aliens. That's enough for probably 5 or 6 wraps. So I hope that helped. Good luck with your multi-core alien endeavors.